2 loaves of sourdough, fresh out of the oven. And they're gorgeous. But we're gonna do things a little differently today. So welcome back to the channel. Come on along. We are a 2-acre farm. We try to raise and grow all the food we can for ourselves. We do all of our own meat except for beef. We buy that locally. If we run out of pork, we also buy that locally. However, we try to grow all we can. So with that being said, I am not a crunchy or scrunchy person of non-toxic and all that stuff. Do I believe there are some things out there? Absolutely. I'm just telling you, I'm not always perfect when it comes to that stuff. But one of the things I will say that I am super passionate about and really annoyed about is bioengineered ingredients in our food. And so the more and more I'm seeing this stuff pop up, the more and more it's getting harder to avoid. And so we're not just making bread today. I'm gonna let this bread cool and I'm gonna do an experiment. I am going to make DIY instant stuffing, and I'm also gonna make some DIY breadcrumbs because it's made out of sourdough. I know what the ingredients are and how it's made. The kicker is sourdough can mold. Now, I know a lot of people have told me that they can store their breadcrumbs or stuffing mix in the freezer. I don't have a lot of room in my freezer. I've also heard people say they store it for up to 6 months in a vacuum sealed jar. That's great. I am concerned I may not use it all within 6 months because sometimes we're on a stuffing kick, other times we're not. So what I'm gonna do is let this cool, cut it into cubes, and I'm gonna freeze dry it. The only thing that I've done here is seasoned it lightly with Italian seasoning. That will give us a base for the breadcrumbs. For the stuffing, it's not overpowering whatsoever, but I will add some additional seasonings to it. Not quite sure what yet. I want it to be a general purpose. And then we will make the stuffing mix using chicken broth that we have made here on the farm as well. So let's let these cool and I'll bring you back when we're ready to cut them. So it's been a couple hours since my sourdough came out of the oven. And I'm gonna take each loaf and cut them into cubes. Relatively the same size. Not looking for perfection. More focused on close in size, so that way when they go in the freeze dryer, they take about the same time. You can see it's got a nice hard crust on it. And I've got my freeze dryer getting ready, but I've been cutting them about chunks like this, like I just showed you. I'm not taking off crusts or anything like that. I'm just slicing my sourdough into thick slices, and then I'm just going to cube it. You could probably also wait a day when the crust is less crusty. You know, the next day it's usually easier to cut it. But you can see here, I've got 2 cubes, 2 trays of cubed sourdough. And I'm gonna fill 2 more and we'll see how it goes. So I really debated on how to do this because, you know, a lot of the times you have leftover bread and you want to make breadcrumbs or you want to make stuffing out of it. I don't always have leftover bread laying around, so that's stale and ready to go. So that's what this idea really got to me is, can I just make sourdough and have stock on hand in the pantry? And I was talking to a couple of friends and I said, you know, I'm looking online and there's all these different ways to do it. Not a lot of information, I will say, for this, except for, you know, if you have the stale bread. But my friend said to me, use the freeze dryer. Don't let it sit on the counter for a couple days. She goes, dry is dry. And I think that was a really good way for her to put it for me, because if I dry it, I'm preserving it, and then I can have it on hand. The breadcrumbs will easily reconstitute in whatever dish you're adding it to. And then the stuffing, you just add less moisture to it, so that way you don't have mush, unless, you know, mushy texture is what you want. But that's the other reason why I'm leaving the crust on, because it'll add some texture. So I'm gonna finish cutting this up and I'll bring you back. I have all 4 of my trays filled with cubed sourdough, and I'm gonna go put them in the freeze dryer. The good news is this usually does not take long. Drain valve is closed. We're going to continue. And there we go. So it'll probably be sometime tomorrow that I'll bring you guys back. So these seem good and dry, and these are the cubes. So what I'm going to do is put some in quart containers. And then I will show you what that looks like. So I'm going to get another container, and then I'm going to make the breadcrumbs. 3 quart jars full of cubes, subject to change, because I'm going to do a pint jar of breadcrumbs. That's my goal. And since I'm doing breadcrumbs, I'm keeping all the crumbs from the tray like I talked about earlier. And obviously you can make them as coarse or as fine as you'd like. If you want panko versus real fine. Oh. How's that look to you? Good?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put this Oh wow, I made more than I thought, because we've got another tray, because it was 2 trays for 1 loaf. Do you want me to make another pint? You want stuffing? Okay. My husband's in the background, so we're gonna make stuffing. He'd rather have stuffing, so there's my breadcrumbs. So let me clean this up and I'll show you what I'm going to do with the stuffing. So in my bowl, what I did was I Googled online and it was a copycat stovetop stuffing mix because I think that's a good flavor to go with a lot of different dishes. So I'm going to do that with 2 jars, and the other 2 jars I'm going to leave plain. So in this bowl, I have parsley flake, thyme, black pepper, salt, ground sage, and it said onion flakes, but I use dehydrated onions. And what I will do is put the recipe in the description box down below, so that way you will have that information. But right now what I'm going to do is just mix this real good, and I'm going to split half of it into one jar and half of it into the other. So these will be my stovetop stuffing mix ones. And these will be plain. They have a little bit of Italian seasonings like I talked about. And so let me get stuff ready and we'll vac seal it. Thing I forgot to add is celery. The recipe called for, I don't know if it was celery salt or something like that, but I have freeze-dried celery. So I'm going to add that in now. And so I use up this bag. I'm going to add that to each jar. Because I don't want to have to put a bag back. Helps me use up stuff in the pantry. So now I'll get the stuff for the vac sealer. Let me get the oxygen absorbers and I'll be right back. All right, so I've got my lids, got my oxygen absorbers on top of all my jars. I wiped all my rims with a soft cloth, a dry cloth. And I've got this handy dandy vac sealer for small jobs like this. I like this unit because I don't have to drag out my big vac sealer all the time. When I'm doing large jobs, I do drag out my vac sealer and use the accessory. But this is good for, like, if I open a jar and I only use, you know, 1/4 cup of breadcrumbs, I've got this right in the kitchen just to handle it. So it works really well and it's rechargeable. And that jar is sealed. And I usually let them sit out for a day because if there's dust on the rim, they will unseal. So I double check that. All right, I'm going to seal the rest and I'll bring you back. There you have it. I've got them all sealed up, and on my top of my container, I wrote 1/2 cup of chicken broth and 2 tablespoons of butter is what it says to use. So I marked that on the jar as well. So we've got the 2 stovetop sealed, we've got the 2 plain sealed, and we've got some breadcrumbs. So next video, I'll bring you back and show you how to make it, see if I had to refine the recipe or anything like that. All right, everybody, so there you have it. Shelf-stable stuff. Looks really good to me. I think it's going to work out well. It just may need to adjust the water and the margarine ratio. So we'll see how that goes. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Take care.